Imagine a uterus during a woman's period. That's the Republican Party right now. Just blood and convulsions and the inability to viably sustain life anymore. It's bad. Guys, we live in a time when Pope Francis and Beyonce can release new material within a month of each other. What a time to be alive. Now, I've only read about this much of Amoris Laetitia, the Pope's new thing, and I've only listened to about 2 songs off of Beyonce's Lemonade. If Daddy Lessons isn't a country song, then at the very least it's a blues song on its way to a country song. So this video isn't going to be about content, but my initial review is thumbs up on both. I want to focus on how they were released. They both had really short release cycles, even if they had a really long time to prepare. Both of them were released really quickly after they announced their release dates. Both of them happened really fast, so fast that it didn't give people enough time to give reaction. It just allowed various medias to reaffirm their own biases. And both caused mass chaos when they landed. The whirlwind from Lemonade that we're just coming off of has reminded me a lot of the whirlwind that happened to Amoris Laetitia. It's one of the things that Pope Francis and Beyonce have in common. Also a great singing voice. But there's one big difference between the two. Beyonce benefits from this chaos, and Pope Francis does not. Like, really does not. If Pope Francis or any other pope wants to benefit from this style of dropping documents, he either needs to completely revamp his infrastructure or just drop the idea and change his tactic. Let me explain. Beyonce, like Pope Francis, is a huge international media player. Remember, Beyonce got an album to #1, and people didn't even know the album existed until a week before. So how does she do this? One, she's got entire companies working for the perfect timing and the perfect release and the perfect production. It's her paid army of collaborators on the creative side and on the business side that really make all this work. She also has her unpaid army of disciples and collaborators. They do her bidding without ever having to be asked. Looking at you, BuzzFeed. 3, the mass internet and social chaos that came from everyone trying to have an opinion about Lemonade. It was this race to be the most opinionated about something. Not the best, just the most. If Beyonce had a message in her album, it risked getting lost in all of that hubbub and noise. But who cares? People are buying the album and listening to the music and hearing the music videos, and that was the point. It's also the fact that Lemonade consists of 3 to 4 minute songs that last only an hour long. It's easy to digest that much media. Let's compare that to Pope Francis and Amoris Laetitia. So #1, he has his own army of collaborators and paid helpers. Plenty of people write and co-write and collaborate and ghostwrite on papal documents, right? Then there's people like Cardinal Schönborn, who plays the Bernadette Peters to Pope Francis's Stephen Sondheim as the primary interpreter of his work. That's the best metaphor I'm giving you on this whole video, I'm sorry. And then you get the other bishops and priests and the lay people that work for dioceses, all of these other paid collaborators for him. But they don't get to see the document until after it's released. We'll get back to that. Then there's the billion people who follow Pope Francis, but they will never have the level of singular devotion as the Beehive, so that kind of cancels out. So then we have all the commotion that arrived when Amoris Laetitia showed up. It was super exciting in the news, and everybody had an opinion. Didn't matter if your opinion was wrong, you just had to say it. Looking at you, BuzzFeed. But Amoris Laetitia is so long. Basically, no one's read it, myself included. Very few of us are gonna stick it out to the end. Also, Pope Francis's message is just a little bit more complex than Beyonce's. When all this chaos happens around Lemonade, Beyonce makes a lot of money. And if anyone gets confused, they could just listen to a 3-minute song and be like, oh yeah, that's what Beyonce's saying. But when it happens to Francis, everyone stays confused, and very few of us will ever read the whole thing. Francis, Papa, Your Holiness, you can't half Beyonce this. You either have to full Beyonce this or not Beyonce this at all. So full Beyonce means you just drop the document when no one's looking. You don't announce the name or the topic, you don't have a synod, just drop the document and walk away. Imagine if the next papal document was just called Francis and it was printed on like a black book with pink titles on. Everyone would read that. If you don't want to do that, then you have to have a much more scheduled release. Starting with the bishops and the people that work for them, they should get the document at least a week before everybody else. See, papal documents used to be things that bishops read and used to do things in their churches. It's not like that anymore. Nowadays, documents get released at like noon Rome time, which is like 3 a.m. California time. And by the 8 a.m. news, TV stations already have fully formed opinions about this stuff. Confused Catholics just look to their bishops and say, is that right? I'm confused. And the bishop, who just woke up, the best they can do is say, here's a weekly worded letter about how the Pope is a leader and the Holy Spirit's a thing. I might read it when I get to it. Way to miss your chance, guys. Way to miss your chance. The bishops need to read this early so that they know what they're talking about, so they can answer us when the faithful Catholics look up to them and ask what's going on. We can't let the news talk for us. And the documents are too long to speak for themselves in a soundbite sort of way. Pope Francis and Beyonce release material in the same fashion, and this is a problem. Not the best opinionated, just the worst. Or no,